Hey friends, so as you know, if you're following me over on Instagram, I just finished up my year-long residency with Adobe. So I asked you guys to send me any questions that you have about my experience throughout the residency and what's coming next, which I am super excited to share with you. But first, if you're new to this channel, hi, my name is Maddie. I am a product designer and a former creative resident at Adobe. And here on YouTube, I make videos about design and productivity. So if you're into those things, feel free to hit subscribe and let's get into some questions. Oh, also, just wanted to say the reason that I am doing this video from my bed is because I just got vaccinated, got my second vaccine, so I'm like already getting kind of tired and I really wanted to film this, but I just wanted to be comfy, so that's what you're getting today. Okay, so before I get into the questions I haven't answered yet, I want to address a video that I made earlier that answers a bunch of these questions, which I will leave below, around how I got the residency, how I learned about it, the portfolio that landed me the job, and all of that. So I made a really extensive video about how I found out about the residency, why I knew I wanted to apply, and I actually show you my pitch deck in this video. So definitely check that out for all of those questions about like getting the residency and that kind of thing. And now we'll jump into questions that I have not answered yet about the residency. So I got a lot of questions generally about my biggest challenges throughout the residency and things I found most difficult. So I think for me that would be like prioritizing everything I wanted to do. So I went into the residency with a main project and I had some other things I wanted to do also. So along with those 3 main case studies that you can see on my Behance, that was my main project. But along with those things, I also wanted to do YouTube, Instagram, basically build myself up as an educator in design and that kind of thing, and do some live speaking engagements. And I really wanted to go on Adobe Live and also wanted to start building my Behance Live channel, which those last 2 things that I mentioned are things I didn't get around to. So I think that sort of ties into my biggest regret and my biggest challenge. Those were 2 questions that I got a lot. And that would kind of be it, is just that I didn't have the time to prioritize everything I wanted to do. Like, you really have to pick and choose what you spend your time on. Otherwise you'd be working 24/7. Because there are just so many cool opportunities during the residency. You have to pick and choose. And so yeah, the one thing that was challenging for me was figuring out what to spend my time on. And I think eventually I really got the hang of that, and my mentor helped me a lot with that. But yeah, that was definitely the hardest thing for me, and the thing that I look back on and kind of regret not spending some time on the Behance Live thing, because down the road I'd love to be invited onto Adobe Live. And so yeah, hopefully that could still happen, but it's just not something I was able to do during the residency, which is a bit of a bummer. Another thing I would do differently, if I'm being completely honest with myself, is I would try to reach out to more people during the year, more people at Adobe. I spoke with tons of people at Adobe in the beginning, and I think I kind of like tapered off as I got busy doing my own work. And I don't think I fully reached my full potential when it comes to making connections. I did as best as I could, but I think that if I'm being honest, that's an area I could have improved in, is just like reaching out more to the people who are building XD, like the designers on the team, and picking their brain and sitting in on meetings. I did that during the beginning, and then I sort of just fell off and didn't do it so much during the second half of the year. And on the other side of that, people asked what my favorite part of the residency was and kind of what the biggest thing I got out of it was. And for me, it was definitely confidence in like my voice and positioning myself as an educator and just someone who shares about design online. I was fairly confident with like the UX portion of, you know, the residency already. I had had a job in UX previously and a bunch of clients, and so it was definitely something I needed to learn more about and practice more. But what really got me out of my comfort zone was doing things like this, filming myself, doing live events, all centered around design, and kind of getting a voice in that community, and that's been my favorite part and the scariest part in the beginning, but definitely the most rewarding part. Next question I'll answer is, what all did it entail? What were the day-to-day tasks and broad projects overall? So I touched on that a bit, but basically when you apply to the residency, you choose a main project and a side project. And so this isn't like set in stone, but it is sort of how you move through the year. Is your main focus is your main project, and your side project can be either like a mini project within your field, or it can be something more community related. So for me, my side project was, I guess, social media, if that makes sense. So like doing YouTube videos like this, and also sharing micro content on Instagram. So that was sort of my main project, was building myself up as an educator. I also did a Skillshare class, which kind of falls into that side project category. And so you can do different side projects, you can do one side project. It really kind of depends, and they're very flexible. And so the other thing that I had to do sort of day to day was check in with my manager every single day and let her know what I was working on. And anytime the community team came to me and asked me to do something for them, for example, host an event or prepare a talk or a workshop, either for the creative community or the internal Adobe community, meaning the community fund, which I'll leave a link to the community fund and the community in the residency program so you can learn more about the difference. I also do outline it in that other video. But yeah, basically you're a member of the community team whenever you are a resident. So anything that the community team needs that you can help out with, you're expected to help out as much as you can, as long as you're also prioritizing your projects that you're doing for yourself. So the program is really a career accelerator, and so it's sort of twofold. You build your portfolio in a way that is going to help you accelerate your career post-residency, and you also start to engage with the community to sort of be a brand ambassador for Adobe. Next question is, do you think it secured your career for good now? And that's a really interesting question. I think that previous Maddie would have thought, oh yeah, like Maddie, if you get this residency and you go through this year, you know, the rest of your career is going to be a breeze. You can pretty much get any job you want. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. In fact, I know that's not the case. It really is going to take a lot of work on my part to keep kind of stepping up in my career. And getting to where I want to go next. I'm someone who has a lot of goals, and so I definitely want to keep sort of like stepping up and doing even cooler things. And I am 100% sure that the residency put me in the right direction. There's no question about that. I have zero regrets, and it was honestly a perfect experience at the perfect time for me personally. But to be fully transparent, since the residency, or since I started looking for my next thing, I did hear no a lot of times. I applied for some jobs, and you know, I kind of got rejected a lot, and that's so normal. I know that if you're in the design industry and you've applied to places, you're probably in a similar boat, especially right now. It's competitive. Coming back from COVID, it's competitive, and so I would say no. I'm still working really hard to kind of get to the next step, and I'll talk about more what the next step is in a few minutes. But yeah, it doesn't mean that I'm set for life, but it was an amazing opportunity that definitely helps. I think it has helped me stand out in certain scenarios and has helped my confidence a lot. So yeah. Okay, now a more like technical question, I guess, is how many projects were you able to work on, and what were the working hours? So for the working hours, it was basically 9 to 5, but you didn't necessarily have to work from 9 to 5. I am in Mountain Time, and my manager and many of the Adobe employees that I worked with are in Pacific Time. I also worked with people on the East Coast in Canada. I worked with people in Europe. I worked with lots and lots of different people in different time zones, and so that in terms of when the working hours are was very, very flexible. If I wanted to work, you know, like a few hours in the morning and then take a break and work a few hours in the evening, like that was perfectly fine. Basically, you just had to work 40 hours a week. And so yeah, it was really nice to be flexible like that. Obviously also we were remote, so very, very flexible in that respect too. And in terms of what or how many projects I was able to work on, I did 3 main case studies, which you can see on my Behance, which I will link down below. And along with that, I guess the other little projects I did for Adobe were workshops and talks, speaking engagements, portfolio reviews, things like that I had to prepare for and then, kind of present. Those were sort of different projects, I guess you could say. Also, I guess you could say YouTube was a project that I worked on, and same with my Instagram. I kind of started from zero with my design-focused Instagram, and my Skillshare class, I guess you could say, was a project as well. And I bet there were other like little things I worked on, but yeah, like I mentioned, it's really flexible and you can kind of work on whatever you want as long as it is going to like accelerate your career and as long as you're sort of checking in with your manager here and there and you have sort of an agreed upon goal in mind. Yeah, it's really flexible and it kind of grows with you as an opportunity. So yeah. Will you be a speaker at Adobe Max just like Julia Masalska, Koi Vin? Just asking in general. That is a good question. I don't know. I have not been asked yet if I want to speak at Max, but never say never. I may reach out and see if they need a speaker for something XD related. It would be very fun, but also very scary. So to be determined. Would it be possible to get absorbed into the company after doing a residency? And the answer is yes, for sure. A lot of residents don't necessarily get absorbed in the way you might think. Like, the residency is on the community team. It's not like I went into the residency as the UX resident and then I will become a UX designer for Adobe, like designing Adobe XD or designing Illustrator or whatever it might be. That doesn't usually happen, although I could apply maybe to, if there are any openings, to work on one of those teams. But what's more likely and what a ton of residents do and what I will definitely be doing is staying involved with the community team. So I'm going to obviously continue using Adobe XD and sharing about it here on YouTube, but also through workshops with Adobe and things like that. So if there are ever opportunities where I can sort of be like an evangelist for Adobe or host helpful portfolio reviews, things like that, then I'm going to be continuing to work with Adobe to do those things, except I'll sort of get paid to do them. During the residency, it's part of your job, but once you graduate the residency, those are things that are paid opportunities. Ooh, this is a good one. Best and worst moment. I think the worst would probably be kind of recently. I had like just an embarrassing moment in one of my talks. I was giving a presentation and I just couldn't get my like screen share to work, and it's so embarrassing whenever you're talking as if someone can see your screen and no one's seeing your screen and you're just kind of like blabbing on and no one knows what you're talking about, and then someone has to like come on the Zoom or whatever and be like and then I sort of have to like re-say everything I just said, and it's just like uncomfortable, and then I just felt off for the rest of the presentation. So yeah, that was probably one of the worst moments. But it's not that big a deal. It happens to everybody. Technical difficulties happen, embarrassing things happen, you mess up. That's normal. But anyway, that was probably one of the worst moments. And I think the best moment, I'm someone who really likes, I guess this might sound bad, but I like to be recognized for my work. Like, I like when people say nice things about what I'm doing, and it just makes me feel good. It makes me feel like people like what I put out there and that what I'm doing is like worthwhile. And so I think for me, the best moments were either like getting a project featured on Behance and then getting tons and tons of awesome comments about the project, and just like, oh, like people saying like, I would use this app, like, oh my gosh, is this real? Like, can you actually develop this app? Like all of these things about these projects that I spent so much time and put so much thought into, where people say they would actually use it. Like, those are really, really awesome moments. And that kind of brings me to what I'm doing next, in a way. And so basically what I'm doing going forward is I'm going to be the design lead at a startup called Bubble. And so why this kind of ties in with what I'm saying is because when I share my work online, like I've started to do this year, people, not only say, oh, like I would use this app, like this is awesome, but also startups and companies have been reaching out to me a lot asking if I want to like design for their apps or their projects or whatever. And that's awesome. That's the entire goal of the residency, is to get you sort of on the right track with your career. And so if you don't know, before I got this offer with the startup, I thought I was going to be freelancing. I thought I was going to be taking on a bunch of different projects and kind of getting back into a freelance business, which is something I did before the residency. But I started to have a lot of thoughts about wanting to work on a team, about wanting to really put my all into one idea, and sort of getting the experience of seeing something from beginning to end, all the way through from idea to iterating once it's already in the hands of users. And that's something that is hard to get as a freelancer. You'll usually be hired just for portions of projects, or even if you do the whole project, then you kind of say goodbye once it goes live, and maybe you'll come back in a year and look at data and make some improvements, but it's just different. And so I started to have doubts about whether I wanted to freelance. And so I started applying places, and I had put out a video and an Instagram post about how I would tweak the UI of Clubhouse. And no, I'm not going to be working for Clubhouse, but this startup is eventually going to be going down the social media route. And so they just got their hands on my Instagram post or YouTube video, I can't remember which, and they really liked my ideas and what I was suggesting. I guess they looked at the rest of my content, the rest of my projects, and wanted to reach out. And so they actually reached out to me. And so yeah, I had a call with them. I will go into more detail about how I actually got the job and the interview process and all of that, but that's what I'm going to be doing next. I've got this design lead position. I just started on Monday of this week. It is a full-time salaried position. And I'm really happy with like the salary and the benefits and all of that. It's above and beyond what I would have expected from an early stage startup. And as the design lead down the line, if this startup is successful, I'll be able to build a design team under me, which will be crazy, really, really exciting, and a huge learning experience, years down the line potentially. But it's just something that's really a perfect fit for me. It's going to allow me to keep sharing with you guys. There's no NDAs. So even though we're, trying to launch this brand new product, I can talk about it as much as I want. I can, essentially talk about all of our ideas, what we're doing, what we're working on, why we're making certain decisions, and that kind of thing is exactly what I want to be sharing, like the real deal of, what goes on in, the design team and like a startup and things like that. And what it's going to be like working for a startup, because I've never done it before as a full-timer. And so yeah, I'm just really excited about it. I've been blabbering on for way too long, but I would love to know down in the comments what you want to know about the position. I'm going to be sharing so much more about the product that we're working on. But it's still very early stages. And so, yeah, I wasn't even going to mention that the company was called Bubble because there's not an amazing website up yet. Like all of this stuff I still need to do. This is why they brought me on. We're working so far on the MVP of the product, but also a little bit a foundation, laying the foundation for the brand, and probably putting up a website too, working on the pitch deck to get a little bit more funding. And so anyway, that's all stuff that is still in the works, and I'm going to be able to share as I go with it. But I would love to know if you have specific questions. and kind of what you want to know about when it comes to applying for a job at a startup, working for a startup, what questions to ask, maybe like all the stuff that I've kind of already done and the stuff I'm starting to get into doing now. Let me know what you're interested in. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was very long and rambly, but I'm really excited about what is coming next and excited that I'm going to be able to share it all with you guys. So yeah, thank you for watching, and subscribe if you haven't already. So much fun stuff is coming, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!